welcome to Artificial Conference. I'm here with the one, the only John Lepore. How are you, brother?
Well, great to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited. You're going to be kicking off the conference, and man, that's a big responsibility. Keynote, first speaker out, talking about the future, all of the different design aspects that you can imagine. Why should someone actually even listen to you and your keynote at this conference?
Sure. So I always say this whenever I'm describing my specialty as designing the future. I'm very aware how ridiculous that sounds. Like, it's completely absurd. And what gall do I have to say that's, what I'm doing? I design the future. Well, it just so happens I've spent about 15 years working on creating fictional technologies that you've seen in some of the biggest blockbusters ever made, creating fictional technologies for superhero films, science fiction films, and other blockbusters. And when I'm not doing that, I'm taking that same exact approach, working with major technology brands, some of the biggest brands in the world, on helping them develop their next generation technologies, often with an interest in making sure that they live up to those ambitions that we've seen in science fiction through our whole lives. So for me, bouncing back and forth between those worlds has become this almost art of finding the right ways to blend the pragmatic problem solving that comes into like engineering and science and combine that with some of the magic that gets us so excited about our favorite films and our favorite stories in the world of fiction. And so at the end of the day, that's my obsession, designing the future.
Very cool. So what would you say someone would get out of attending your presentation in particular?
Well, we're going to talk specifically about something that is unbelievably important to me, which is the concept of figuring out how, in this day and age, where things feel exceptionally uncertain and unpredictable, how do we design positive futures? I think anyone that I know has a very easy time describing to you what a dystopian future will look like and feel like and be like. We all are incredibly well-versed and can describe with ease what it would be like to live in a world that's like Blade Runner meets Akira meets Hunger Games, right? But we have very few touchstones for what a truly positive future could be. And so I want to get into that with everyone that'll be in attendance and talk about this, especially at this time where we're at the very beginning of some really explosive technological paradigms that I think it's very easy to see are going to change the way that life is lived in the future. And we need to be thinking about that through a truly positive lens.
That's great, man. Super excited about it. So what would you say to someone who is on the fence about attending and making that investment in themselves and in technology and going all in to say, oh, you know what, I'm thinking about going, maybe I should go, maybe I shouldn't. Should I invest in this? What would you say about someone who's on the fence?
I advise every creative, every person in business, every colleague or friend that I come across to familiarize themselves with the world and the culture surrounding AI. Because I do truly believe, regardless of how you feel about it, and I can appreciate that not everybody is super excited about the concept of AI. May also not fully understand it, right? I think it's unbelievably important that everybody be familiar, sensitive, aware of, and comfortable with everything that is happening within the AI zeitgeist and start to learn about and figure out ways that these tools and these capabilities can be worked into any different facet of your life to help improve whatever you're doing, rather than to be caught on the other side of it, where you feel boxed out by or unfamiliar with or overwhelmed by everything that is happening in the AI landscape.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, I think it's one of those things with the future, you just can't avoid it. It's already here. It's already happening. If you have tried to avoid the internet, it's eventually going to surround you. So it's moving even faster. So what would you say has been one way that AI and artificial intelligence has transformed your field of expertise? And what exciting developments do you see in that?
So I see tremendous power in AI as a force multiplier in many different ways. Sorry, I got some. You got to tell me where that shit, right?
That's great microphone. Can't no, it's fine. It's fine. Let it happen because we're gonna do audio cleanup. It's all good.
All right. Well, for instance, I'm talking to you right now, and I've got all this insane background noise that's coming from my 6-year-old son who's raising hell with marbles and wooden blocks and whatnot. It's so noisy. And I know that all you have to do is just drag the recording into the Adobe podcast tool, the Adobe AI podcast tool, and it immediately cleans up that sound. It makes me sound slicker and more professional and smoother and whatnot. And so I love these tools like that that are taking a process that I would have to deliberate and go through the process of, oh, am I going to open up this new tool? Am I going to learn how to do something? Am I going to find new training materials? How do I clean up the audio and whatnot? And there's something that can just take care of that for me, because I also don't strive to be an audio engineer. I have tremendous reverence and respect for all of my friends who are sound designers and audio engineers in that space. But for me, I want to be able to just have a quick and easy result, right? And AI is able to do that for me. I love spitballing concepts and ideas and presentations with Chat GPT, not because I trust that it's going to write it for me or make a presentation on my behalf or anything, but just because it's a sounding board. It's a way that at any point where I get stuck, and if I'm just working on something all by myself, I immediately, at any point, if I'm laying in bed, I have something that I can bounce ideas off of and get other responses. And I don't ever expect that it's going to come up with the perfect result or response, but it always generates something eventually that I can use as a jumping off point, or something that reminds me to factor in some element that I hadn't been considering previously. It's just like being able to, I used to work in an office where every once in a while I would open the door to my personal office and shout out into the pit where 15 different people were sitting, and I could just shout out a random question and get a bunch of different answers and just get a range of different opinions. And I do appreciate that I can still do that. I can still reach out to my friends and text them or contact them on Slack. But I also like that when sitting in bed late at night, I can fire something like that into Chat GPT and get a range of different responses, just more than anything to make sure that I'm covering certain blind spots or being prompted myself to keep thinking in different directions.
No, that's excellent. So what would you say is one of the things that you hope attendees would be able to take away from your talk and apply in their personal or professional career and lives?
Well, I hope first and foremost that everybody, after hearing my talk, I want to make sure that everybody feels invigorated and comfortable with how they have the power and the capability and rapidly expanding capabilities to help collectively define this future, right? The future that is ahead of us is very uncertain. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. It just means we don't know exactly what's going to happen next. But that also means that it's the Wild West. Whoever wants to take control of it, whoever wants to make an impact on it, whoever wants to contribute something towards that future, this is the time. We've never had this much of an open canvas ahead of us to take control of. And I truly believe that so many of the individuals, particularly people working in creative fields, always underestimate the power that they wield with their own expertise and capabilities to have a broader impact beyond some of the day-to-day tasks that often creative professionals are asked to deal with.
That's excellent. So one of the things is we have a really diverse lineup at this show. This is super exciting. We're covering everything from educational panels, art panels, business automation, law and copyright. Is there any speaker or any topic or panel that you're really excited to see or participate or be involved in?
I'm obviously super excited about all of the creative content But I'm also really interested in, and I'm curious about that because I'm already very familiar with it. And I want to sit with the experts and learn how these masters are really taking advantage of these tools and these capabilities in ways that maybe I haven't discovered yet. But I'm also really excited to sit in on any of the sessions that are a little more outside of my wheelhouse, because I do believe firmly that an AI revolution is going to impact every field and every industry, and often in ways that I can't anticipate or predict. And I would like to get a better understanding of how it is being leveraged in all of these other spaces to best broaden my scope when I'm thinking about and designing various futures.
Yeah. Very cool. So one of the last things is there's a lot of people on their way to the conference now. They're making their way. They're excited to be there. What would you say is one of the things that they can do to maximize their interactions and forge meaningful connections with people? Because networking is an integral part of every live experience. And one of the things that we have at the conference is we're going to have stickers so people can identify as an engineer, an entrepreneur, an artist. So it makes it networking a little bit easier. But is there anything that you would give, any tips for anybody to maximize their engagement in a live event like this?
So it's always important to me that when you show up to an event like this, you show up as open and welcoming as you can to the information that you'll be hearing about, but also to the new relationships that you can forge, the people that you can meet. I love doing these kinds of things with you, Matthias, because I know you always start an operation like this from a place of openness and acceptance for everybody who is there in attendance. And that always generates, for me, a really beautiful and warm environment where I see people letting their guard down more than they may typically do, being very open to meeting many new people or people from completely different disciplines or spaces. Especially when you think of like getting a bunch of creatives together, sometimes it can turn into a contest of pretentiousness, right? And seeing who's got the most swagger. And I love that when I'm in these events that you're curating, there's never that energy in the air. And people who often I encounter, it's easy to see that it is people who maybe are much more guarded in other aspects of their life. And when they come to a space like this, within the first hour, you realize this is a space for openness and connection, and everybody equally lets their guard down and have a great time making connections with those around them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing. Everybody's super excited. Love to have you. Thank you for your participation in it. This is the year zero of artificial intelligence, and we're in it. So thank you for being a pioneer and sharing your wealth of knowledge to help bring about that golden age of humanity.
Hey, I'm so excited to be involved. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I can't wait to see everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.